Hello everyone, this is Brian Slocum with the Design Labs at Lehigh University, and today we are covering how to use the WaterJet and create toolpaths inside AutoDesk Fusion. So the example I'm going to use today is this simple flat fold iPhone stand. A relatively simple design. These things fold up and you cut it out of a single sheet of thin sheet metal. Obviously this is a relatively complex pattern. I don't want to have to try to cut this by hand, and so the WaterJet is a great tool to use to do that. So really quickly, just want to look at the model. This is extruded as a component. If I turn that off, you can see it's based on this sketch here. The one thing, I'm going to leave this sketch on because it has what I would call a common cut line. If you follow my mouse here, there is this one spot here that actually forms the back of the phone stand, and that is just cut out using a single thickness of the WaterJet so it can fold up through. If I turn off my sketch, because that has zero thickness, that line disappears. And so I want to leave that on when I actually generate my toolpath, because I'm going to want to generate a toolpath based on that line itself. So let's get started. Before we actually do anything in Fusion, we need to download the post processor that will allow us to create the G-code that runs the WaterJet. And so that will actually happen by finding that in a browser. So I'm going to switch over to Chrome here for a second. And our WaterJet is an Omax ProtoMax. And so if you look, I'm going to start by going to cam.autodesk.com/HSM posts. Now the post processor is really important because it creates a very specific G-code file that only works with a specific machine. So it is going to package that G-code in a way that the machine can understand it. This differs from machine to machine. There are some posts in the library inside Fusion that's already preloaded. The one for the ProtoMax is not there. So you're going to need to go to a browser and you're going to need to download this post first. So again, I'm going to go to cam.autodesk.com/HSM posts. In the search bar, I'm going to type in Omax, ProtoMax. And there is one that is specific to the ProtoMax WaterJet. So I am simply going to click download. And I am going to go ahead and put that somewhere that I know where it is, so that I can easily find it. So I've downloaded that post processor, and now we're going to go into Fusion and do a couple customization things so that we can go ahead and install that. So I'm back here in Fusion. Before I do anything, I'm going to go up here to the top right corner to my account settings. I'm going to click on the little human icon and click on Preferences. And that's going to open up my Preferences box. Under the manufacturer, under the top level manufacturer menu, you want to make sure that Enable Cloud Libraries is selected. What this is going to do is it's going to allow you to save those post processors for different machines to the cloud. And that means if your computer dies, you switch computers, you borrow a friend's computer, you're using a computer in a lab, you can bring up those posts and you can save out your toolpaths or your G-code. So first we want to enable cloud libraries. You could clearly save it locally on your computer. I just think this is the best practice because now we only ever have to do this once. Once that's enabled, you can click OK. And then we're going to be back here in Fusion. Okay, now that we're here, we are going to go ahead and put that post processor in the cloud so that we have it. So I'm going to open up my data panel. And I'm going to go make sure I'm in the right team. I'm going to click on my home if I'm not already there. And I want to go down to Assets. These are all sorts of assets that you can take with you that are part of the cloud. This is really driven more toward, CAM, computer-aided machining. And I want to go to the CAM posts folder, and we'll go ahead and open that up. Now you'll see that nothing is here, and so I want to go ahead and I want to upload that file that I just downloaded. So there's my ProtoMax.cps. I'm going to click open and click upload, and you'll see that that now uploads that file. Once that's happened and done, you're good to go. That will be in your cloud library forever. So I can go ahead and close my data panel, and I'm ready to move to manufacturing. So if you were in your design tab, we're going to move over to the manufacturer workspace. So click on design and move down to manufacture. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a new machine. So I'm going to go under manage. I'm going to go to machine library. And under my machines, I'm going to go to cloud because I want to store this in the cloud. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new machine because you see that there's no machines currently stored in the cloud. So I'm going to click add, and I want to add a cutting machine. So I click on cutting, and it pops up this little window. And in this window, I'm going to go ahead and say this is an Omax ProtoMax. And I'm going to change it from generic cutting machine to WaterJet. You can change the icon if you really want to. I'm going to just leave it as this generic one and click OK. And you'll see now that we have a machine in our cloud library. It has this little warning that says post is not selected, so I need to align that post that I just put in my CAM posts to this machine. So I'm going to click the folder that says select a post. I'm going to go to cloud, and I'm going to choose that Omax ProtoMax.cps that I just downloaded. And I'm going to run without restrictions and go ahead and click select. And now it's tied that post processor to that WaterJet. So this just saves us a step in the future. All right, so I have my machine set, and I'm going to go ahead and click close now because I know that's now in my machine library. And now I'm ready to do a setup. So I'm going to click setup. Couple things we want to do here. So first machine, I'm going to hit select. And now that we've done this work, it should pop up in cloud. I can choose Omax ProtoMax and click select. And it's going to grab the information that it has from that machine setup. You can go back and edit this at any time by clicking the edit button, but we're set to go. Operation type is cutting. The work coordinate system, this is really important. So this is going to tell us where our origin point is inside the WaterJet. And so it's like in our WaterJet, that is where the start point is. I want to keep this pretty close to my edges, but maybe give myself a little boundary. So you can see that the material that it's doing here, if I click to the stock tab next, we'll come back to the work coordinate system in just a second. If I click back to the stock tab, it's in a relative mode. So you could tell it's a fixed box size, and so say it's like we know that we're using a 12 by 12 sheet. So I could say this is like 12 inches. And I could say that the Y is also 12 inches. And I can put my model position in the offset from left side and model position offset from back side. Oops, the depth, sorry, the height is not 10 millimeters. That's going to be whatever the thickness of my material is. But, and if you had a sheet of material and you knew that you really wanted to position this inside a sheet and maybe you were nesting a couple things, it's definitely worth spending the time to do this. But what I'm going to just choose is actually the relative size box, and that's going to make a material size that's really close to the size of my object. And I'm actually just going to give it a little 1 millimeter offset I'm going to route to the nearest 1 millimeter. And that's just going to give me, you can see this little 1 millimeter gap between the edges, and that just makes sure that wherever I set my origin point, I just have a little bit of space between it. Then I'm going to go back to my setup, and now under orientation, I'm going to say stock point, and I am going to go ahead, stock box point. I'm going to move my origin to the top left corner. And this is how I'm going to set it up in the WaterJet. So wherever I set my start point or my 0, 0 in the WaterJet, this is this point right here. And we can see that that's aligned very, very closely with the left edge and the bottom edge of my model. Here, I'm not going to worry too much about the next things. Part position, they don't really need to change where my part is. I'm not going to worry about that at all. Under post-process, I could change my program name here. You're going to do this when we hit the post-process step, but you can save some time, or you can just make sure that you don't forget to do this by putting in your program name now. This is just what the file will be called when you save it. So when you open it up in the WaterJet, this is what you'll be looking for. Phone stand. Click OK. So once I have all those parameters done, so again, setup, choose my machine. I'm going to put my origin point bottom left corner, and I'm going to change the name of my program to phone stand, and click OK. That's going to lock in that setup, and you'll see my origin point now has moved down there instead of being centered in the model. Now I'm actually ready to create the tool path that I will be using for my cutting operation. So here under cutting, I'm going to choose a 2D profile. And you'll see that your model is selected. Now, I want to show you this because if we look at the last tab, the linking tab, this is going to be my lead in, the lead out. And the distance of that lead in is 5 millimeters, and it's also giving me a pierce clearance of 2 millimeters. What this is all about is from a WaterJet, if I'm cutting this outside profile, it'll pierce off the edge into the material and cut into the path, and then it will start to cut the path. This is great if you have space. So this big circle here, this outside profile, this little box here, I can put a lead in here and cut to that edge and then cut around that. That's fine. These little cutouts here and this common cut line, there's no room for a lead in. So if I chose to add a lead in here, it would probably lead in out here to cut to this. And if I said, no, I don't want you to lead in out there, it's got to lead in this narrow empty space here in the middle, this little gap, it'll give me an error. It will not be able to create that tool path. So I just want to note that here. I am going to start by doing this common cut line and these small points first where I don't need a lead in or lead out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those off, both of those off. And I'm going to change my pierce clearance to 0. And this means it'll actually pierce on my line. And I'm going to click OK. Oops. It's going to ask me to select a tool. You can find these tools. Mine are already set up here, but if you go to Fusion Library, which is where I am, and you go to Cutting, and you choose WaterJet, there are some WaterJet tools there, and you can do in millimeters or inches, whichever one you're comfortable with, and I can select that tool. All right, so because I clicked OK on this menu, it's giving me this error that it's missing contours. I haven't told it geometry. No, I don't want to ignore those errors. So it's going to bring me to the geometry tab, and thankfully Fusion's smart, and it's like trying to force me into doing what I need to do next. So I've selected my tool. It's here now in my tool selection. I should have actually probably done that first. I've changed my linking and made this 0, and now I'm going to tell it the geometry that I want it to do. And so I'm going to select all of those interior holes that are too small for the lead in and lead out. So I'm going to select you and you and you and you and you. And this, we have to select this whole chain. I'm going to select that guy and that guy. So that's all the geometry that I want to select. I'm going to leave this hole, this outside, and this inside hole for a second toolpath, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. I want to make sure that Fusion is going to choose the right side of the line for my cutting path. And so I'm going to zoom in on these, and you'll see this arrow is on the outside of this space. I actually want it to be inside. So if I click on that arrow, it's going to move that to the inside, and that means it's moving my toolpath to the inside of my geometry lines, and that's exactly what I want. It's doing that here as well, so I'm good there. I'm just going to check all of these really quick. This looks like it's on the outside, so I'm going to click that arrow and put it on the inside. This is a common cut line, so I could choose to cut outside or inside, but I'm going to, there we go. Go. Select that whole chain. And good. Now we're good there. And make sure that this is on the inside. It is. And make sure that this is on the inside. And it is. Great. So all of my toolpaths are in the right place. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to go ahead and create that toolpath. And you can kind of see what the preview of that toolpath looks like. The yellow is the fast moves. It's going to move over and then start to cut that line. And you get a sense of how that's all going to work. Great. And you can actually see it's giving me insight. It's using the dimension of that, the WaterJet tool, to show me how wide that path is going to be inside my object. So that all looks great. So you can see I have 2D profile number 6 here. You probably have 2D profile number 1 if you're doing it for the first time. Now I'm ready to do a second toolpath for that circle, this inside geometry, and my outside geometry. So I'm going to go back to cutting to make a new 2D profile. I'm going to go, the tool should be selected already. I'm going to go back to my linking tab, lead in, lead out. All of this goes back to what it was, so that looks great. I'm going to go to geometry, and this time I'm going to select this, and this, and this. And you'll note, oh, I want to move this on the outside so it preserves the full size of my geometry. This is on the inside, which is what I want. And let's just double check our circle. Are you on the inside or outside? You are on the inside. So everybody looks happy there. And we'll go ahead and click OK. And now I have a second toolpath. That's it. That's as easy as it is. The lovely thing is you have a lot more control in this than you maybe do in the Omax software itself. That's incredibly powerful. It has a lot of features that you can leverage, but it isn't necessarily intuitive. I think the Fusion Toolpath Creator is much more intuitive, and it gives us the option to do multiple toolpaths and connect them all together. So that's it. That's the setup. Now we just have to post this, make it run through the post processor. So I'm going to click Post Process here. Really important, I need to click over to the Operations tab, and I need to make sure I'm selecting both of those toolpaths. It's going to create this in one post, so I want to select both of them. Go back to Settings. It should grab that program name that I put in earlier. It should automatically grab the post processor because I've linked it to my machine, so I don't have to do any work there. It's telling me that my units are millimeters. I'm set to go. With this particular post, we don't need to worry about feeds and speeds. Those happen at the machine. So we can just give it the G-code, and we'll set the machine feeds and speeds on the WaterJet, and that will be based on the thickness of the material that we're cutting. So that part doesn't matter here at all. All right, now I'm set. I'm going to click Post. It's going to ask me, it's going to tell me where it saved it. My Documents Fusion 360 phone stand. It saved it successfully. Did it save it locally? Output folder. It's outputting to the cloud, so I can change where that goes. And I can put that here in my Downloads folder or something where it's easier to find. I probably should have done that first. So I click Open, and I click Post, and it's going to resave that there. That post-process file the BCS3 phone stand.omax, that's the thing you're going to save and you're going to bring to the WaterJet. You can either email that to yourself and log into your email, or you put it on the flash drive. Either one should work. And that's it. We're set to go. Next step is go to the WaterJet. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much. Bye.